Hello everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How you doing there, Steve?
Hi everyone out there in FiST Chatland. I am fantastic. I've had a wonderful plastic kind of day.
Oh, that's always good. Malleable and such, or...
Of all kinds, plastic packaging, plastic gifts. It's Christmas time, of course.
Exactly right. And as I guess the tone that I'm sort of hearing there is that plastic is everywhere, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just, if you really stop to think about the amount of many different places where it actually shows up, it's quite incredible.
Oh, look, it's incredible, Ben. I've got a plastic water bottle on the desk. I've got a plastic microphone. I'm sure not much, but at least the keyboard part of my iMac is plastic. Plastic mouse. Should I go on?
Oh, that might be the whole episode if you did that and more, probably. But I guess what sort of kicked off our sort of interest in the topic this week was there was a documentary on the ABC that was screened here in Australia called Addicted to Plastic. And that's sort of taken a more environmental kind of tone to it. And the things that I took away from it that were really quite amazing was just how toxic a substance that it can be to the environment. I mean, we'll talk about lots of various other aspects to plastic as well, but I mean, if we start there, it's a couple of points that were quite amazing that was made in there. That plastic. They had a whole section about plastic showing up in the ocean. You get a Texas-sized garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean. That's got to be some serious stuff there. That can't be good.
Well, I mean, I guess the biggest problem with plastic is in that regard is that it's not organic. Well, it is organic, but it's not biodegradable. And so the way plastic actually breaks down, literally, is by breaking into smaller and smaller pieces. So the smaller pieces of plastic just persist. And the units that make up plastic, the chains that make up plastic, are very stable. So effectively, you've got to wait years and years and years for the plastic to break into smaller and smaller bits and effectively turn to dust before it disappears.
Well, that's one of the points that they made in that documentary. Plastic is not thrown away because it's, as you say, too strong to decompose naturally. And it also takes up a lot of space. They had lots of shots of, landfills and whatnot. And it's light, but it takes up a lot of space. It doesn't compress too easily. And it was kind of sobering, I guess, to think that we've been making plastics for over about 100 years or so. Originally designed as they were trying to figure out a alternative to finite resources that couldn't be replicated, and this was obviously a great solution, at least at the time, because made out of oil, which was then abundant. It seemed like an unlimited resource.
Well, that's an interesting fact because there were synthetic plastics, if you like, before the fossil fuel boom. And that's where synthetic plastics, as you say, really took off. But the interesting thing now is that because oil prices are going up and there's a whole lot of environmental problems with the synthetic petroleum-based plastics, scientists are now looking back towards biodegradable plastics made out of biomaterials, which can be sourced either from plants through starch, so that could be corn or other sorts of plants, or even microbial products where you've got big vats of bacteria turning out bioplastic products. It's amazing. And they can be used almost in exactly the same way as the synthetic products. So that's huge.
So forgive my ignorance of the science, but I was just thinking in Adelaide a while back now they banned all plastic bags in shopping centres and supermarkets, and they've got biodegradable bags that you can buy. Are they made from that sort of material, or is it something else? Who knows?
Well, some of them might be. I don't know. I can't speak for that. I will give a shameless plug to South Australia, though, world leaders in recycling.
Yeah.
One of the big problems with recycling our plastic is that to recycle plastic effectively, you really have to have lots and lots of like. So it has to be all the same plastics. Oh, hello, somebody. Somebody here, plastic man. No, okay. That might keep him quiet for a moment. You have to have lots and lots of the same plastics to effectively recycle them. Okay, right. So that's the big effort. In South Australia, we've really put a great emphasis on recycling all kinds of materials, particularly drinks containers, over the last, I think, 25 or 30 years, and it's starting to pay dividends. The rest of the world really needs to look into this because we can't keep putting plastic into landfill and or reconverting it to fossil fuels to power stations.
Yeah, well, the thing that amazes me is you've got like plastic bottles, endless amounts of them. I mean, hideously, bottles of water really is probably, I won't be popular in the bottle factories for this one because there's so many of them. But it seems strange to me that, you can get all these bottles that are produced, but you have to throw the caps away because they won't be recycled because those parts aren't recycled. And I don't know how well the sorting is done in a recycling plant, but whether if you keep all of that attached to the bottle, whether that causes a problem in terms of later on where they have to sort all this stuff out or
well, whatever. It's interesting. It's twofold. One is that the bottle tops are made out of a different plastic. Okay, so every time you leave them on, there's two problems. One, that they can't be mixed in with the actual bottle itself.
Yeah.
But also the bottle caps are a harder plastic and they actually take their toll on the grinders that shred all the bottles. So it is very labour intensive. You've got to have someone there making sure that those lids don't go into the recycling.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you would think that that there should be some sort of system in place that can maybe make that whole sort of system there a whole lot easier to do. But
it's called robots, Ben.
Yeah, or it could just come down to manufacturing a smarter bottle, perhaps.
Or it might just come down to us taking more care with recycling products, because that is a really important part. I mean, I'm sure it's no secret that everyone's heard the I guess, urban myth / rumour that one day garbage dumps will be the richest places on the planet.
Absolutely, the new oil fields. That's the whole Doc Brown DeLorean thing, chucking the rubbish into Mr. Fusion, and we'll be right to go.
That's it.
Absolutely. Just one other thing while we're on, I guess, on the environmental side of it. One other thing they showed in the documentary was they were showing the amounts of plastic showing up in marine life.
Yeah,
which that's really not good either. And they were actually like pulling out fish and jellyfish as well, and they were pulling out the plastic content. And one point that they made is that really quite brought it home was the plastic goes into the water, the fish and marine life they in effect eat the plastic. Then you get, say, birds that feed on fish, they'll eat it, goes into them, and then at some point in this cycle, it'll come back to us.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is something that it might be as dangerous as nuclear waste, but it lasts easily as long. So we really should think about that, in terms of all our choice of packaging.
Yeah, and also economically, it seems like it's almost beside the point of trying to go trawling through the ocean and cleaning all this stuff up. From the sounds of it, it would probably be better just at the source point to reduce the reliance on the types of plastics and also recycling them properly, making sure they don't show up in, say, the ocean where they get washed out, and eventually a lot of what's out there will eventually wash up the shore, which we can then get rid of.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, because it's a huge problem. They're not just stories about marine life and other animals being killed by plastic bags. It's true.
So maybe, I guess, looking into the future, is it looking at a different type of plastic that we'll be looking at that will, hopefully solve some of these problems?
Oh, absolutely. I think as fossil fuel prices continue to rise, particularly petroleum, that you'll see people turn away from those synthetic plastics, and we'll probably move back to, as I was saying before, bioplastics, which have their base in either plant-based materials or polymers, which are the building blocks of plastic, or perhaps they will involve plastics or polymers that are derived from basically microbial production. Yeah. And those products are actually able to do anything that the plastics we know today are. The big difference is that they will actually break down in normal environmental circumstances. So if they're made to be, because there are still a class of bioplastics that you wouldn't want to break down. For instance, your phone casing, you'd hardly want that to start breaking down while you're still using it.
Oh, of course. But maybe that's, I guess, where the science of it comes in, because at the same time, as I'm sure you know, mobile phones are also a hazard when they start getting thrown out in the tens of thousands as well, if not more.
Absolutely. But if you're looking at things like packaging, already you've got the peanut starch packaging, which everyone who uses eBay is probably familiar with at some stage. And it's pretty tasty too if you're really desperate.
Well, there you go. There's another possible use for it.
So we can move to like plastics like that to fulfill the same uses as the synthetic plastics that we've used simply because of their ease. So, but there's a whole range of engineering things we can do with these new plastics anyway, on the back of nanotechnology and also carbon fibre technologies that will allow us to do things that we still can only dream about today.
Because at the end of the day, we need some sort of substance that can perform all these tasks that we need. We need, for example, food and drink packaging, which makes up so much of, particularly bottled. That of the bottled variety, and that's just, I mean, that's all we've really been talking about today. But there are so many plastics out there. They're everywhere. Clothes.
Oh, exactly. Well, clothing. I mean, take polyester out of your clothing, and I think most of us are going to be naked pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's just amazing where all of these plastics kind of show up. But I guess if we think like in terms of a bigger picture type of scenario, just to finish up, that this kind of leads into a lot of the other topics we've discussed in terms of environment, that we have to start thinking differently in terms of how we, produce a material such as this, in terms of recycling, in terms of the effect on the environment. And you could almost see plastic production kind of going in that way as well, that it's going to have to be done in a way that is in line with this sort of new aesthetic, if that explains it.
Absolutely, and I'll just perhaps leave with this bit of FiST chat thought that plastics as we know them today are old hat. They're last century. What we need is the 21st century plastics, that will take us into outer space, same that they use on the Dreamliner or on Virgin Galactic. We also need space age clothing, like Star Trek clothing, with all our mobile communications built in. We need, bioactive polymers that will help tissue regeneration and help with medicine in ways that we haven't imagined. So these are already being built, as are super lightweight, super strong polymer constructions that could build skyscrapers, even taller than the ones we see today. Not to mention maybe even skylifts straight into orbit.
And that's a great place to finish up. A nice thought, thinking of the future. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
Thanks, Ben.
And don't forget our website's at www.fistchat.com. You can get all of our links there, all our episodes, social media. Make sure you interact with us, and make sure to check out our blogs on plastics this week, which should come up a little bit later in the week. So we'll be back again next week for our final episode of the year, I believe. And it'll be exciting. So until then, have a good week.